بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طالباتي العزيزات في الصف الأول بفرعيه المسائي والصباحي، هذه هي المحاضرة الثالثة والأولى اللي راح تكون فيديوية. أتمنى أن تكون مفيدة لكم وأفضل من الصيغة الورقية. The title of this lecture is Final Sequences. In the last lecture, we've talked about sequences in initial positions. So we talked about the case of 2 consonants initially and 3 consonant clusters initially as well. Now it's time to talk about final clusters of consonants. So in English, we have various types of final consonant clusters, and they are actually more detailed. So let me raise this question. Why do we have more detailed and various consonant clusters in final position of English words? Actually, this is basically because we always add suffixes to the end of words to change them from one word to another. For example, we normally add es or s to make plural nouns like book, books, car, cars, watch, watches. And also we can add es to verbs to change them into third person singular form like take, takes, phone, phones, change, changes. Actually, the addition of es can be pronounced in 3 different ways, and this gives more variety to final clusters because this es can be pronounced as se, ze, or is, as in the above examples. So for example, with book, we add the s and we pronounce it S, se, books. With cars, we add the S and we pronounce it as ze, cars. With watch, we add the ES and pronounce it is. This also gives more variety to the clusters that we can find in final position. Another type of suffix is the ed, normally added to verbs to change them into past or past participle forms, such as cook, cooked, clean, cleaned, want, wanted. Again, the addition of ed can also be pronounced in 3 different ways. It can be pronounced like te, as in cooked. It can be pronounced as de, as in cleaned, and id, as in wanted. Also, this gives more variety and more details to the clusters that are found in final position. The addition of th to some nouns to change to some nouns, and sometimes we add them to numbers to change them into ordinal forms, such as strength, a noun. Strong becomes a noun by adding th, strength, and 5 into 5th, 6 into 6th, 7 into 7th. These are ordinal numbers. And also these words, ordinal numbers, can also be made in the plural, and this will be or create more complicated clusters like 5ths, 6ths, and 7ths. Okay? Now let's talk about the first type of final cluster, which is the case when we have a stop followed by another stop sound. If you remember, the pronunciation of a stop sound requires a complete closure in the vocal tract. So what do you mean by complete closure? Just to refresh your minds, let me explain. when two articulators are in complete contact and the airflow is trapped for a short time. The air is stopped behind these organs of speech. So a complete closure means that we have two organs of speech that come into complete contact, leaving no way to the air to go out, trapping the air behind them. Okay, this is called the complete closure. After the complete closure, what do we need? We need the release stage. The release stage. What do you mean by the release stage? It is the stage when the two articulators, which are in complete contact, they leave each other and the air is going to be pushed out with an explosion. That's why these sounds, the stop sounds, are sometimes called explosive sounds. To summarize, a stop sound requires a closure stage. The air is stopped for a short time, and the release stage, the air is pushed out of the mouth. Now the question is, I want you to pay attention to this question, my dear students. What if we have two stop consonants, one after the other, without a vowel between them? That is a stop plus stop. Do we have a closure for each one of them? I mean two closures. Or what about one closure? What about the release? Do we have a release, one release, or two releases, each for one stop sound? Let's discuss this question and try to answer it. Actually, in the case of a stop plus a stop, we need to differentiate between two cases. Now I'm going to explain the first case. If we have a cluster like p plus t, p plus t sound, as in the word, I used to have two words here, I make them one, okay, as in the word kept. Look, here we have p, t in final position, one after the other, without a vowel between them. So how to pronounce this cluster? Here we need to make the closure for the stop sound p. And you know, the sound p is a bilabial sound. How do we make the closure? We make the closure by closing the lips or pressing the lips together. Pressing the lips together as we have in this figure. Look at this figure. This is the way p and b are pronounced. Look at the lips. The lips are pressed together. Okay? So we do that. While we are still closing our lips, we prepare for the second closure for the sound t. The sound t is made by raising the tongue tip to be in contact with the alveolar ridge, as in this figure, figure 17 in your book. Okay? So you can look at the tip of the tongue, which is in contact with the alveolar ridge. So if we want to pronounce the word kept in the correct way, we should keep our lips closed, like this one in figure 16, and we prepare our organs of speech. That is, we raise the tip of the tongue to be in contact with the alveolar ridge while the p is still being pronounced. If you remember, I named this case as the first sound is being pronounced and the second sound is being prepared. Okay? So this is the correct way to pronounce the cluster p, t in the word kept. So we will have a closure for p and another closure for t. This means that we have two closures. Two closures. Look at this word. Two closures for p, another one for t. But do we have a release for p? No. We don't make any release. That's why it's necessary to keep the oral cavity closed until the t is released and the air is pushed out. Like kept. Kept. It shouldn't be pronounced like K, K, P, T, K, P. No, there is no release for after P. Okay? Now, I want you to listen to the video and follow with the lecture, then try to answer this question. Explain the pronunciation of the stop plus stop in the word act. We have kete, not pete. So what kind of description you can provide here? Here we have a cluster of a stop, which is ke, and another stop, which is te. How do we pronounce it? Okay? Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to meet you in another lecture, and I wish you the best of luck, my dear students. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.